Okay, everyone, here we go. Here's our episode of Twitter Talk. We got a pretty good lineup tonight. Evan and I were talking about what we're going to fit into 15 minutes. So we're going to start off. We had some loyal listeners. They wanted us to talk about what's going on between the SEC and the Big Ten, which is a better conference. Evan and I got a couple takes on that. We do agree on which conference is better, but we're going to give you our reasoning. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Then we're going to get into the Wisconsin Northwestern preview. And then at the end, we're going to give a little preview of tonight's Giants-Bears game. So this should be another great episode of Twitter Talk, Evan. And with that said, we had our loyal listeners put the question out, which conference is better? SEC, Big Ten. And you and I discussed this before we got on the Twitter Talk. So let's just dig right into it. Start with your thoughts. I'll add my comments, but what do you think, SEC or Big Ten, bud?
Yeah, well, I'm a huge Big Ten guy. Actually, obviously, the only Big Ten team I won't cheer for is Ohio State. Do not like them at all. But other than that, I'm a huge Big Ten guy, and I'm always rooting for the Big Ten to do well. But as much as I want to cheer for the conference, especially the Badgers, to do well, I just don't see, I see maybe if you match up the best of the Big Ten, top to bottom, to the worst, best of the SEC to the bottom, to the worst, and match them head-to-head against each other, I think Wisconsin might get 2 victories other than that, just looking from, at the conferences from top to bottom. I just don't see it, where the Big Ten, can beat the SEC right now. The Big Ten is getting better, but the SEC, they've won, I think it's 7 straight national championships for a reason, and they do so well in the bowl games against the Big Ten right now for a reason. Like I said, the Big Ten is getting better, but they're not quite there yet. And with the addition of Urban Meyer in the Big Ten, that's only going to help the Big Ten because everyone in that conference is going to have to step up their recruiting. So right now, it's easy. SEC, really, it's not even close right now, better than the Big Ten, but the Big Ten is getting better.
Yeah, I think they're getting better. And like you and I said, I mean, if you go top to bottom, the power teams in the SEC are going to take care of the power teams in the Big Ten. Like we said, the Ohio State-Alabama matchup probably be a good offensive battle because the defenses on both those teams can't stop the other offense. And so if you can share that with the listeners, because when I listen to you talk about what Alabama struggles with, I agreed with you 100%. So I'll just let you share that, why that would be a huge offensive matchup, because I think people would tend to think that Alabama-Ohio State would be a low-scoring game, but I'm with you. I think the defenses can't stop each other. So touch on that a little bit about why that would be a high-scoring game.
Well, Ohio State has been struggling this year at stopping the passing game. Joe Stave put up, I think, close to 300, if not 300 on Ohio State. Northwestern moved the ball really well against Ohio State. That's been their weakness this year, is the passing game. And now you look at Alabama, what they struggled with, the running quarterback. They couldn't stop Johnny Manziel. Alabama won the game this year, but they couldn't stop him. And that seems to be Alabama's biggest weakness, is if you have a quarterback that can move around and make plays at the speed, they don't look like their defense right now can make a stop in that situation. So, like both teams' strengths are the other team's weakness on the other side of the ball. So I think it'll be an offensive battle, but I think Alabama would end up winning it at the end, at least by 10.
Yeah, I think Alabama would end up winning. That would be one of those games that would be like 56-49. Something outrageous like that with 900 yards of total offense. But I totally agree with you. I totally agree. We look at those teams, but again, the Big Ten, I just look at it from top to bottom. I mean, when you go down, I mean, if we hand-pick the matchups, we might get maybe 75% for the SEC to 25% for the Big Ten. But, it's just like you said. I think the Big Ten is a solid conference. I think they're going to represent well. We've got a few teams in the top 20. But then you look at the SEC, and the teams that are in the top 20 are in the top 10 that have a chance to compete for the national championship. We're not just talking about Alabama. I mean, I think, again, they're going to have a good run at it. But, I mean, those teams are ranked consistently in the top 10, top 12. So at this point, you have to make the SEC a better conference. I mean, just hands down.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's even an argument at this point. Now, we could probably we can revisit this in 2-3 years, and it might be different. But right now, as of today, I think you and I are pretty much agreeing that the SEC is a better conference.
Yeah, it's hard to say that because I love the Big Ten, but, it's just the truth hurts sometimes.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I mean, we just got to be real. I mean, the reality is the SEC is better right now. And, the Big Ten, like you, I love the Big Ten. I'm a Badger guy, and I love the Big Ten. Every bowl game, I'm cheering Big Ten all the way, except for Ohio State. I have a problem. I have a problem there. But other than that, I'm cheering for the Big Ten. And I'll tell you what, I'm happy with Northwestern. I'm happy with the success they're having. They're having a great year, and that's going to lead us into where we're going with this. Northwestern is having a great year, and now it's Wisconsin-Northwestern this weekend. Give me a little bit of a preview. I know that you do some reporting on the Badgers, so I think the listeners would really like your insight on this Badger team and how they're going to be able to beat Northwestern.
Well, the shocking part of the game is in Las Vegas, they have the Badgers right now 10-point favorites. That's very shocking to me because I don't, I see Wisconsin winning, but I don't see how they're 10-point favorites because Northwestern's a good team. They put up a very good fight against Ohio State this past week. But, the thing Wisconsin does really well, which is running the football, they have 3 running backs that could easily get 100 yards, and Gordon, who's healthy now, he left the Ohio State game with a leg injury, but he's healthy. James White, Corey Clement, they got 3 running backs who can easily run 400 yards against Northwestern, because Northwestern doesn't stop the running game very well. Northwestern forces turnovers, and if Wisconsin can protect the football, get their ground game going, control the line of scrimmage, Wisconsin should have no problem moving the football on Northwestern. And, what Wisconsin has struggled against a little bit is stopping the passing game, which Northwestern has 2 quarterbacks that they tend to use. They have one guy they put in there as a running threat, who does a lot of his own read stuff and the option stuff. And then they have a guy they put in who's the thrower. Now, the advantage this gives to Wisconsin is, they're going to be able to tell by what quarterback's in the backfield what they're probably going to do. If the passing guy is in there, they're probably not going to run a lot of read options. They're probably going to be straight handoffs to the running back if they run the ball. If the other guy's in there, the running threat, he can throw a little bit, but you don't have to respect that as much. So, it's going to be a good matchup. A Wisconsin defense, if they can step up and control the line of scrimmage, Badgers offensive line can control the line of scrimmage, I see Wisconsin winning by 7.
Well, I think the biggest advantage, as it always is, and it's a traditional Badger strength, the offensive line. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and I had talked about this with you about, the best defense is offense if we can control the clock. I mean, Northwestern has an offense that can put points on the board. And so if we can maintain that...
It's football to do that, though.
Yep. And so if we can, though, maintain that running attack, like you're saying, we have 3 backs that could potentially go over 100 yards. I think if we can control the ball, like you said, keep control of it, no turnovers, no mistakes, have some long drives, and be able to score when we have those drives and not settle for field goals or even like a 10-play drive and then punt it. If we can capitalize and score with those long drives, I agree with you. I think we can win the game. I think where we'll get in trouble is if we start getting into 3 and outs and keep giving the ball back to Northwestern. Because I'll tell you what, Evan, I was impressed watching Northwestern against Ohio State. And that last drive, I mean, if they had not had that miscue at the end, I thought they were driving down to actually possibly win that game.
I agree with that. That was tough for them.
That's got to be heartbreak on that. But I think, offensively, and I know our defense has been playing well at Wisconsin. And, I think it's a toss-up when we look at our D-line to their offensive line. Now, you cover the Badgers consistently. I don't know what you think there, but I think their offensive line, our defensive line, is kind of a push. And I think it's just going to come down to will on Saturday. Who wants it more in the trenches? The Badger defensive line or the Northwestern offensive line? What's your take on that?
I really like the Badgers the Badgers defensive line. I really do. Bo Allen, he's a monster in that middle. He's a very good nose tackle. You know, they're big. The Badgers D-line, they're big, they're strong, and Northwestern, as tradition has, they tend to have a smaller offensive line because they run a lot of the spread stuff and they like linemen that can move. So I think Wisconsin is going to be able to, their D-line is going to be up for the task, and they're going to, allow the linebackers to move around the field and make plays.
That's some good stuff. That's why I like talking to you, bud. I know you cover them every week, so. No, but I agree with you. I think they can pull this game out. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah. So we've got about.
Betting man, I would be for I would bet on Northwestern beating the spread, but.
Oh yeah, if it stays at 10, I mean you almost have to, because I don't think it's a 10-point game. I think it's closer. No. I think it's closer than that. But hey, again, you and I aren't in Vegas, bud. We're just on the phone talking into the iPhone, rambling. That's all we do. Yeah. But it'll be a good game. It leaves us here with about 3 minutes to talk about tonight's game. And, I'm looking at it, the Giants going into Chicago, and, the Giants at 0-5. I mean, it's just got to be the biggest disappointment of the year in the NFL. And the Bears started off on fire. Everybody was on the Bears bandwagon, 3-0, blah, blah. And now they've dropped 2 games in a row because Jay Cutler has become Jay Cutler again. When he gets pressured, he makes mistakes. And that is typical Jay Cutler. The first 3 games, not a lot of pressure. Last 2 games, pressured up and making turnovers. So when you look at tonight's game, what do you think the key is for the Giants to get their first win?
The key is going to be, the Giants' defensive line that used to be so good for so long, always get the Packers fit. The key is going to be that defensive line getting pressure on Cutler. If they can get pressure on Cutler, as you said, Cutler be Cutler, and force dumb throws and make mistakes, and if that can happen, the Giants need to capitalize. Eli Manning needs to be the Eli Manning of old and protect football and not be a turnover machine. And like I said, if the D-line can get pressure, get Cutler uncomfortable, the Bears have a young offensive line, especially on the right side. The Giants have a chance to win tonight. And I, thinking about it, I've been kind of on the fence going, both ways. I think the Giants pull off the upset. I think they're going to win 21-17 tonight.
Well, being of course the NFC North fan I am, I hope you're right. I hope the Giants go into Chicago tonight and win, because that would be awesome to knock the Bears down to 3-3. What I look at, though, is I like that Bears defense. I have to say it. I mean, they've been forcing turnovers. And unfortunately, I see the Giants, they've been turning the ball over like hot butter. I mean, they just can't hold on to the ball, and they're turning it over. Eli making, whether it's bad decisions or route running mistakes, the interception rate is just high. And the Bears are a good team at forcing turnovers. I see Eli making one mistake too many tonight. Unfortunately, I'm going with the Bears. But my heart's going with your pick, Evan. I really hope the Giants go in and get win number 1. But I'm just looking. I don't think the turnover woes end tonight for the Giants. I think the Bears forced that last turnover, and I think the Bears come out with the victory. But with that said, folks, again, Evan and I rambled 30 minutes on football tonight. Published shortly. Evan and I will see you next Thursday at the next red light. Enjoy the night, everyone. Thanks for listening.